Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm bringing my Shundo level 50 Mamoswine to the Open Master League, but there's a twist. Instead of running the usual fast attack, which is going to be Powder Snow, instead, I'm opting for Mud Slap. Mud Slap did get a buff at the start of the season, and now generates energy faster than it previously did. Typically, Mamoswines do want to run Powder Snow, but I'm curious, what can Mud Slap do on Mamoswine? I tested it out over the course of a couple sets and even managed to get a 4-1 set above Legend Elo. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping into the first match, leading Zacian into Mamoswine. This is a matchup where having close combat on my Zacian would be extremely nice, but I did opt to go for the slightly more neutral set of Wild Charge and Play Rough, which does make this matchup more difficult. My opponent goes for the high horsepower. The high horsepower is the less efficient move, but the extra damage is going to allow them to potentially go for a farm down here in the 2 shield. Knowing that, I'm just not going to shield. Instead, I'm just going to let this through and instead bring in my own Mamoswine. Mud Slap does add up quite a bit here. My opponent is going to be firing off their energy. My goal here is to try and go for a 2 shield full farm down play with the Mud Slaps. As we can see, Mud Slap does quite a lot of damage. And then I'll have a ton of energy for whatever my opponent decides to send in. They switch out into a Giratina origin. Giratina's not going to like what Mamoswine has prepared for it. Massive damage from the Avalanche. I farm up, and I go for Avalanche number 2 just before they're able to make it to the Shadow Ball. Opponent commits the shield. I switch into the Therian Landorus as the opponent fires off their charge attack, and it is going to be the Shadow Ball. Now I can look to overfarm with the Landorus, as I do want to try and exit this matchup with energy that I can potentially use to knock out my opponent's Mamo if that's what they decide to send in. I'm able to pick up the knockout onto the Giratina. Do we see the final Pokemon here, or do they send in Mamo? It's a Dialga. I go for the Sandsear Storm, but the opponent makes a beautiful catch onto the Mamoswine. I fully undercharge the Sandsear Storm as I need to get energy on my own Mamo. I'm able to get the Mud Slap farm down, denying their Avalanche. In comes the Dialga, the Mud Slaps hitting for super effective damage, and it all comes down to this. Did the Mud Slaps do enough for the high horsepower to knock out? Yes, they did, and we take the win. Picking up a slightly negative lead in the next match, Zacian into Giratina Origin. I'm going to save switch into the Landorus, as if my opponent has something like a Kyogre in the back, I need to bait it out, and a Landorus up energy basically has 0 counters in the Master League. My opponent is going to let the first charge attack through, they fire off the Shadow Ball, and I'm going to decide to shield. If they stay in here, I'm going to go for another Sandsear Storm and just continue to apply pressure to my opponent. They're going to no-shield once again. They can make it to another Shadow Ball, but at this point, I've got them 2 stages debuffed. This is 100% okay. I can look to overfarm quite a lot. I'm nearly able to make it to the back-to-back Sandsear Storms, putting my opponent in a difficult predicament. They choose to just fully sacrifice the Giratina and send in Dialga. Dialga going to be met with the Sandsear Storm. That is going to connect. That does so much damage. I send in the Mamoswine in the back. Opponent has a Melmetal. Melmetal definitely not appreciating the Mud Slaps. The nice thing for me is that Thundershock, of course, is double resisted. So even if they land a superpower, they're never able to farm me down. I tried to call a potential Rock Slide bait on the first. Unfortunately, no such luck. I'm down 0 shields to 2, but my opponent has to start shielding. Their Dialga is too low. If their Dialga ends up dealing with the Mamoswine, they're just not going to have enough HP here. They decide to let it go, trying to trust in the Dialga, but the Mud Slaps do too much damage, and before I can send in the Landorus, the opponent resigns the match. Picking up a tough lead in the next match, Zacian into Therian Landorus. Therian Landorus as a whole is a pretty big problem spot for this team, as especially with the Mamoswine having Mud Slap, that matchup is way worse now for the Mamoswine. I'm just going to bank energy on the Zacian, send in my own Landorus. Unfortunately, with Switch taking a turn there, I am always going to be 1 mud shot behind as long as they throw their charge attack before I get mine. They're now going to send in their own Zacian, but I have so much energy here, this is actually very okay. I'm just going to keep debuffing them. I farm up, trying to go for charge attack priority to a potential Wild Charge in case they had it, but they're just going to look to farm up. That's perfectly okay. They're firing off energy. 100% okay with me. They're going to go for the double debuffed Wild Charge. It does not KO, and Therian Landorus able to hang on, make one final Sandsear Storm, and win switch advantage. They send in the Landorus. I'm forced to pivot aggressively back into the Zacian as I don't have a good response to the Landorus, as unfortunately I have Mud Slap, which means that I have zero fast attack pressure into this Landorus. They go for the Sandsear Storm. I continue to farm up with the Zacian. I make the Play Rough. This Play Rough is debuffed, but it will still do some solid damage. Opponent lets it through. I've managed to get them low. Can I make it to another charge attack? No, the opponent fires off their energy. I really need Mamoswine to clutch here in the back, sending in the Mamoswine. Unfortunately, the Mud Slap just really does not do a lot. They're going to fire off the Sandsear Storm. I commit the shield, and in the back, the win con appears. It is Dialga. And with Mud Slaps, I am able to outpace, and the Mud Slaps do enough damage that I should be able to put it into Avalanche range. I continue to farm, not quite able to get to the Avalanche there. And unfortunately, since I am debuffed due to the Sandsear Storm, this Avalanche, I think it'll still KO, but it'll be close. The Avalanche does not KO. Mamoswine gets the farm down. In comes the Landorus, and two more double resisted Mud Slaps take the win. Moving into the next match, leading Zacian into Dialga. I'm going to save switch into my own Landorus. I'm going to overfarm by one to avoid a catch, but my opponent just makes the perfect possible prediction, and they catch the Sandsear Storm onto their own Landorus, and with that, things are honestly looking quite bleak. I decide to go for another Sandsear here. Even if my opponent calls the bait, which they do, it means that I can very comfortably tank a Stone Edge, and that's my goal here. Is I'm in this matchup, I'm already not in a terrific spot due to the fact that they were able to make that very nice catch, so I may as well get them heavily debuffed. Now, they can't KO with the Sandsear, and the question is, did they make it to the Stone Edge? I'm saying no, but they did, and they win switch advantage. I send in the Zacian, but this is going to be tough as I don't have close combat. If they bring in the Dialga, I think I'm just going to send in the Mamo and hope that Mamo can do well in the back. In comes the Mamo. The Mud Slaps are adding up. Oh no, it's my own team. It's Ho-Oh in the back, and I resign the match. Picking up a positive lead in the next match, Zacian into Togekiss. I'm more than happy to stay in this lead to start with, and either grab both shields or switch advantage, and if my opponent decides to double shield, then I can just hard pivot into the Landorus. Wild Charge will get the shield, opponent is going to fire off their energy, and I'm more than happy to shield myself, and then just go for one and the Wild Charge. Wild Charge should just about KO here if they decide to let it through. Opponent is going to let it go, and the Quick Attack picks up the knockout. In comes Giratina. I'm going to send in Landorus. Opponent farming up energy. They let me get to a Sandsear Storm. So I'm going to fire off the Sandsear Storm. That's going to connect. Opponent now going to send in Kyogre. Kyogre, they were just waiting to absorb energy onto that Giratina before they sent in the Whale. But Kyogre is now going to have to deal with quite a few charge moves here from the Landorus. Landorus firing off Sandsear Storm after Sandsear Storm. The Sandsear Storm is going to connect. Kyogre continuing to farm. Kyogre is going to fire off energy here. That works great for me. They are heavily debuffed. I can send in the Zacian to absorb this energy, and then I'm just going to blind switch into the Mamoswine, anticipating that my opponent is going to switch in the Giratina, but they don't. That's actually not good, as I take a couple waterfalls, and now this game suddenly looks losable. My opponent will fire off the Dragon Claw. Mamoswine able to tank that decently because Giratina Altered does no damage in the Master League, basically. I'm farming up and firing off the Avalanche. The Avalanche will be shielded by my opponent, and here, arguably, I should have shielded because forcing them to throw another move means that I will get another Mud Slap through. They try for the farm down, and the Shundo Mamo on 1 HP remaining picks up the knockout onto the Giratina, and somehow we get the win. Moving into the next match, picking up a decent lead, Zacian into Dialga. I'm looking to save switch into the Landorus. Unfortunately, a little game stutter there forces me to throw a quick attack first, and the opponent is going to respond to the Landorus save switch with Palkia. Honestly, Landorus is such a cracked Pokemon that it can probably flip the 2s here, to be 100% honest, but flipping the 2s doesn't really help me, as if I get Mamoswine onto the Dialga in the 0s, they're just going to land an Iron Head, and that is way too much damage. So I'm going to try and play out the one shield here. I'm trying to make it to the Sandsear Storm, but one turn beforehand, they make the Aqua Tail. I have double debuffed them, But Landorus, it's not known for its bulk, and it will still get knocked out. I will get a massive farm with the Zacian or not, as the opponent is going to save the Palkia for later and send in the Dialga. Dialga firing off the Iron Head on charge attack priority as I fire off the Play Rough. Play Rough is going to hit for neutral damage here, of course, not running close combat. I'm going to look to overfarm as much as I possibly can here with the Zacian. Wild Charge, it's going to be close as to whether it knocks out. I don't think it quite will. The Wild Charge leaves him low, and I get the snipe with the Mamoswine. But my opponent, if they want to, they can send in the Palkia. The Palkia still has some decent HP left, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They send in the Palkia. Palkia will go for the Aqua Tail just to try and burn my shield. And in the back, they have Landorus, and I've never been so sad to have Mud Slap. This is like the perfect matchup for Mamoswine if you have Powder Snow. But I don't. I'm running Mud Slap, and I just have to hope that I can make it to the Avalanche. The Stone Edge connects. Come on, Mamoswine! And we get knocked out as we make it to the Avalanche, and we lose the game. Hopping into the next match, going up against fellow content creator Caleb Pang, and we pick up a negative lead, leading Zacian into Therian Landorus. Landorus is just going to go straight for the Sandsear Storms. My guess is they're probably going to shield the first charge attack, so I will actually go for a Wild Charge bait to try and grab a shield, save a little bit of residual energy, and then bring in my own Landorus. I know that I can tank a Stone Edge very comfortably here, so I am going to be letting this through, as a Stone Edge doesn't really threaten me, but my opponent is actually going to go for a debuff. I farm up quite a bit of energy, and they switch into a Lugia, so they do not have a great response to a Therian Landorus up energy. I am debuffed here, but the Stone Edges are going to do quite a lot of damage. My opponent's game started there for a little bit, but it looks like they were able to get caught back up, which is good. The Stone Edge will connect. They're firing off energy. I have 2 shields. I may as well use them for something, right? So I am going to be committing the shield, and I actually save that charge attack for later. I send in the Zacian, and I fire off the Wild Charge, denying my opponent the opportunity to go for a Sky Attack. Wild Charge will pick up the knockout. In comes the Landorus. Landorus could have overfarmed a bit more, but choosing to just fire off the energy right away, just looking to get rid of the Zacian. I send in my Landorus, and I'm going for the Stone Edge. This Stone Edge will not knock out, but it will put them into Sandsear range. I'm farming up with my Landorus, and I win the coin flip charge attack priority tide. That is absolutely massive. I'm able to grab the shield, and now I think I just trust in the Mamoswine. They've already been pretty weak to Mamos so far, and they're weak again in the back. It's Dialga, and the Mud Slaps are adding up. I'm going to be shielding up here and looking to build up to the back-to-back avalanches. First avalanche, of course, to pick up the knockout on a Dialga, and the second avalanche will be game over for the Landorus, as my opponent's Landorus does not have a charge attack loaded. Down goes Dialga, in comes the Landorus, and this is massive overkill, knocking out the Landorus, and that is a good game. Picking up an amazing lead in the next match, Zacian into Dragonite. This is a great spot to be in. My opponent, however, save switches into Landorus, and I'm once again wishing that I was running Powder Snow on the Mamoswine. I'm able to get the prediction correct, though. I predict that they overfarm by 2 and go for the Sandsear Storm, so I'm able to get the catch onto my own Landorus. I am just going to be perpetually behind on energy in this mirror, but at the very least, I was able to waste my opponent's energy and save a bunch on my Zacian. I fire off the Stone Edge. The Stone Edge is going to connect. I continue to farm up. My opponent, this is going to be really close. I think I can barely survive a Sandsear. Not very well, so my opponent is going to full send the Stone Edge. I send in the Zacian. Zacian will go for the Wild Charge to pick up the knockout, as I just need to get rid of the Landorus. But losing switch advantage is going to be tough, as in the back they have Ho-Oh. They're running triple flyer, and I'm going to lose to it, because my back Pokemon has Mud Slap instead of what it should have, which is definitely probably the Powder Snow. So I go for the Wild Charge. That connects. I'm going to send in the Mamoswine, but look at the Incinerate damage, man. Those Incinerates add up so much. I shield up the Sacred Fire. In comes the Dragonite, and I'm farming up. I do have the energy advantage here, so I'm able to make it to the Avalanche. My only hope is for some reason they don't shield the Dragonite, or maybe there's a play. If I let this go, and then I can farm up to enough energy on the Zacian. So I'm going to try and go for that play. I'm going to send in the Zacian, but Zacian, it's just too low. I can't make it to the amount of charge attacks that I need, so I resign the match. Moving into the final match, leading Zacian into Kyogre, and considering what I have in the back, I am extremely happy to see the Kyogre on the lead. My opponent throws their charge attack on alignment, which is definitely a surprise, as I do get a quick attack for free. They go for the Surf, and I'm firing off the Wild Charge, and I'm one away from the back-to-back. Wild Charge gets the shield. Opponent tries to go for a Wild Charge catch onto Dialga, but I'm able to hold on to my energy and send in the Landorus. And here I will go for a slight undercharge. I'm going to have to shield whether I go for a full charge or not, so I may as well go for a slight undercharge so I can leave with an even larger pool of energy to threaten my opponent. Landorus looking for the farm down, and look at the farm. That is absolutely beautiful. They're going to send in Kyogre, and I decide to fire off the Stone Edge. In hindsight, maybe I should have Sandseared first, but I'm able to get both moves either way. And Sandsear plus the Stone Edge is going to do quite a lot of damage. It actually picks up the knockout, and in the back is Togekiss. Togekiss will be met with the Wild Charge. They should grab the final shield, and then despite the fact that I have Mud Slap on Mamo, with a shield left, I can just send in the Mamo. I will be able to make it to an Avalanche. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, I had a lot of fun getting to test out my Shundo Mamoswine with Mud Slap. Across the sets, I think I went 2-2-1, a 4-1, and then a 2-3, so about even on the day. If you're looking to climb, Powder Snow definitely going to be a lot more consistent, as it allows Mamoswine to be the anti-flyer that it typically is in the meta. But I did have some fun catching people off guard with Mud Slap, showing them Mud Slap, I don't think it's quite as bad as people might think. Powder Snow definitely still the way to go, but I was able to get some very fun wins with it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated, so thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.